Look across the developing world, and you will find a recurring economic mystery. Nations with highly publicized, well-researched growth strategies consistently end up with stagnant economies and abandoned megaprojects. The problem is rarely a lack of vision, it is the execution gap. There is a vast, quiet void between the moment a government designs a policy on paper and the point where it actually gets built in the real world. As the blueprint tries to cross that divide, it collides with shifting political cycles and changing administrative priorities. Capital gets stuck. Momentum dies before the project ever breaks ground. Prosperity depends entirely on a nation's institutional capacity to move a project from a digital blueprint into a functioning physical asset. For much of the past decade, South Africa has been trapped inside this exact gap. The consequences of that stalling are highly visible. When state-run energy plans fail to materialize, the daily reality becomes rolling blackouts and total grid instability. This chart maps a brutal 10-year reality. As national infrastructure capacity steadily declines across rail and ports, the unemployment rate climbs in direct response. The sheer scale of these overlapping crises proves a difficult truth for policymakers. Relying entirely on the state to deliver economic growth has reached its functional limit. That is why the Cabinet's recent endorsement of Phase 3 of the Government Business Partnership carries actual weight. This diagram illustrates the mechanical fix. Rather than treating private enterprises as outside entities to be regulated, the government is placing private sector expertise directly inside a shared state execution framework. We already have proof of concept. The earlier phases of this exact partnership helped drive the end of load shedding and secured South Africa's exit from the FATF Grey List, a global economic watch list for financial crime. International financial markets are tracking this structural shift closely. Agencies like S&P and Fitch have recently issued credit rating upgrades in response to the stabilizing economic environment. We are seeing a distinct economic model take shape, one where the state explicitly relies on private sector collaboration to deliver national infrastructure. The immediate target for this partnership is a massive R2 trillion infrastructure pipeline. The physical work required to clear that backlog is immense, but the real value lies in the multiplier effect. Expanding energy capacity gives the manufacturing sector the reliable power it needs to scale up production and hire more workers. Then, by modernizing the rail and logistics networks, those newly manufactured goods can actually reach export markets efficiently. Economic opportunity in South Africa operates as a tightly interconnected ecosystem. Fixing one failing system immediately triggers growth in another. Zoom out from Pretoria, and you see that the era of purely state-led economic development is fading across the globe. Modern economic drivers, like artificial intelligence, advanced manufacturing, and the green energy transition, demand levels of capital and technical expertise that governments alone simply do not possess. The most competitive nations are actively restructuring. They are building environments where the government acts as a coordinator, while businesses deploy the capital and execute the heavy lifting. This transition to collaborative execution addresses a challenge shared by many neighboring economies, facing high infrastructure demands and limited state budgets. For these nations, moving away from purely state-led delivery represents a practical path toward attracting the capital needed for large-scale development. History does offer a warning here. Economic plans rarely fail because their objectives are wrong. They fail because institutional momentum fades and coordination breaks down over time. The success of this new model will be measured by the physical volume of freight consistently moving through South African ports. It will be judged by the actual, verifiable megawatts added to the national energy grid by private investors. And every cleared logistics bottleneck and energized factory must ultimately drive toward a single number, creating more than 1 million jobs by 2030. Predictability and coordinated execution serve as the foundation of a modern economy. The final test of this model is whether the government and private sector can maintain the momentum needed to turn policy into physical results.